We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, if you love everything in college football, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends if you want to support this truly college football's rebel outpost. If you want to support the home for the true college football sickos with a donation to help us keep the lights on and grow the channel, just hit that $sign where you make your comment and I'll get to super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner, the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls. Let's take a look at something here. All right. It looks like the chat room is working. Welcome on in, Morris Simmons. I appreciate you coming on in. Let's take another look at that. All right. Okay. That looks to be working. We'll check out the phone calls later on in the show. Woo! Yeah, so from my perspective, and I'll let you all be the judge, from my perspective, all of our reporting yesterday is going to turn out to be accurate. Very, very accurate. We are at DEFCON 1. The relationship between the Big Ten and everybody else is horrific. There is a fracture in the Big Ten. More importantly, the Big Ten in the relationship with 95% of the national college football reporters is horrific. There is no trust. And there should not be any trust. Because there is a game afoot that is going on. And we've described it. We know what it is. It's cloak and dagger. And we put it out in the open. I, for one, here at College Football Peek Around the Corner, I have adjusted my operations a little bit behind the scenes. I've had to make certain calls. I've had to separate myself from a few of my sources because I no longer trust them. I've had to go back to my roots, back to the people who have given, well, they've been unbelievable with me. I've been very fortunate to have those relationships. And I got to tell you, some of the chatter behind the curtain, this National College Football Program will no longer trust. There is a sea change that is going on. And for a lot of you, you're not going to notice the difference other than I think you're going to be seeing some reporters kind of push back on other reporters because it is bad out there. A lot of these college football reporters are now, they're dealing the cards from the bottom of the deck. And I'm not going to call them out by name, other than when it gets really bad, I will. Matt Hayes today. Now, he's not a college football reporter. He's a Southeastern Conference hatchet man. Sorry to offend, but that's what he does. If you go through his articles, if you watch him in his interviews at SEC Media Days, when he's talking to the other SEC media people, you know what he feels about the Big Ten. And today he puts out an article in which he dog walks the Big Ten. He hammers the Big Ten on every decision the Big Ten has ever made, or at least here in the modern era. All right. Okay. That is Matt Hayes' perspective, and he has every right. He has every right to write that article. If he truly believes all of that, if Matt Hayes, USA Today, truly believes everything he has written, although some of it is so completely inaccurate, it blows the mind that he was able to get that to his editor. Whatever. But if he truly believes all of that, he's got every right to publish it. As long as USA Today is fine with it. As long as his editor is fine with it. And of course, when Matt Hayes wrote this article, you can tell who reposted that article. A lot of these national reporters reposted that article on X. Give him the old slap on the back. Way to go, Matt Hayes. Although the article has complete inaccuracies in it, but okay, still. But there was one person who reposted that article, and we'll get into it. Oh, we're going to get into it. This one particular person reposting that Matt Hayes article of today should tell you everything about where Michigan stands, not because of Michigan, not because of the fan base, not because of the boosters, not because of the athletic department, not even those who are against this deal. No. This shows you where Michigan stands because of one Board of Regents nut job. Who is not taking Michigan and the Big Ten's interest seriously at all. Because there is no Michigan man. There is no true Michigan man. There is no true Big Ten leader who has been there at the time when the Big Ten expanded with USC and UCLA, when they made all of these decisions. There is no true Michigan man, no true Big Ten leader, no true Big Ten leader with Big Ten interests. There is no true Michigan man with Michigan interests that would repost the Matt Hayes' garbage article. Unless, of course, there is no true Michigan man that would have done it. There is the title of this show. The title of this show is, there is, in the Big Ten, there is a wolf in the house, but it's not UC Investments. And we're going to tell you who that wolf is. And boy, is he loving it. Right? He's got all the approval of the college football reporters, of the SEC hatchet man, of the West Coast hatchet man. He's loving this. He's being adored by the masses. Everybody who is anti-Big Ten, he's getting adored by all of them. But this non-Michigan man, because he's not, this guy, this political nut job, he's not telling you the truth. And because he's not telling you the truth, not that, okay, he's against the deal. Very good, smart people are against the deal. I get it. But this nut job has been lying about the deal. And the reporters are picking it up without fact checking, without calling anybody else, and they're running with it. DEFCON 1. DEFCON 1. We are here at Peek Around the Corner. We have made the adjustments. We are at war standing here. We made the adjustments. I hope you all have made the adjustments. This is cloak and dagger at the very highest level. Before we go on, there's a few football things I want to talk about today. Actually, we're going into week 12. But before we talk about football, before we talk about tonight's revealing of the playoff selection committee rankings, before we do all that, I want to make an announcement right here and right now. Well, I've already made this announcement, but I'm going to do it right here. I approve of the UC investment Big Ten deal. I'm giving my full stamp of approval. That doesn't matter. I am a nobody. Although this nobody is truly pissing people off right now. How do I know that? Because a few DMs, one particular text message, and one particular email message that I've gotten in the last 24 hours. So this nobody's pissing people off, and I do not care. Not a bit. I fully approve of this Big Ten UC investment deal. Now, I am open to criticism on that, especially when I do not have the full details of the deal. I don't. So it is quite unprofessional of me. It is disingenuous of me to support the deal. But I have come to this conclusion because those that are against this deal are being completely disingenuous. They are spreading disinformation like wildfire. It is embarrassing. It is bad. And I'm calling them out. And I'm not just calling them out on X and on this platform here. Because I've got relationships with some of them, I have called them out. It don't really even matter anymore to me if you are for this deal or against this deal. None of us truly have the details, although I think I've got more than many. But the way that people have approached this issue, the people who are against it, the reporting has been a complete farce. And so you have to ask yourself why that is. You can be against this deal and come up good reasons to be against this deal. And you can do the old, well, on one hand, but on the other hand. But then on this hand, but on the other hand. None of them have done any of that. Not like what we've done here. Not like what we've done here. This simple National College Football YouTube channel, the most unpopular one in the country. We have done that. None of them have done that. Not a one. Because they've got an axe to grind, don't they? Not one of them. You know, I did a little video like I used to do back in the olden days. I did a little X video. I put it out there. I mean, you've got reporters like Matt Hayes. You've got reporters out there going, oh, not just Matt Hayes. Some out in the West Coast, some way down southeast. Some of them I truly respect. Some of them on their YouTube channels. These reporters are going, oh my gosh. UC investment. You know what they're going to do? They're going to try to make a whole lot of money. They're going to try to make a whole lot. That's what they do. UC investment is the wolf inside the Big Ten house. UC investment is going to make a whole lot of money. And the Big Ten is their prey. They're going to be vultures. They're going to take away Big Ten's authority. UC investment is going to make a whole lot more money because of this. Don't the Big Ten know this? Doesn't Ohio State know this? UC investment, $2.4 billion investment. 10% stake, $24 billion valuation, which is way more than anybody else, including the true private equity firms, valuated the Big Ten. You know, that is why I'll get back to what I'm saying. I'm going to take a little exit off this rant here. This is one of the reasons why I'm getting all this information saying, Greg, in Big Ten country, nobody thought that the Big Ten would get this type of deal. Like, nobody. It has blown away all expectations. And that is why some of the biggest programs are going, Jesus, This is an unbelievable deal for the Big Ten. Now, you may agree or disagree, but the valuation and the valuation blew every other potential possibility away. We'll get back to that. I forgot what I was saying. So we've got all these reporters, on all their platforms, in what I would call college football influencers, saying that USC investment is going to make all this money. The Big Ten is going to be their prey. And this is horrible. Don't they know? Don't they know? Don't you know? Don't you know that under this deal, if UC investment comes out way ahead, if the $2.4 billion payout brings them $3.6 billion in return after 20 years, or $4.8 billion, whatever the number is, the more that UC investment makes, the better deal for them. It's a better deal for the Big Ten schools. The more UC investment makes, the better it is for the Big Ten schools. The danger is not UC investments making a whole lot of money. That's not the danger. That's not the danger to the Big Ten schools. The danger is if UC investment doesn't make money off this deal, because that means the Big Ten schools would not make money off this deal. They would not be better off 20 years from now having this deal than if they wouldn't have this deal. And the college football reporters can't even get that right. Now, why can't they get that right? Why can't they? Ask yourself. Because they don't care. They haven't spent any time on this. The only thing they have spent is slapping each other's backs, having a few cocktails, calling each other, and, oh, look at Tony Petitti. He's trying to wreck the conference. Oh, look at that fool. That's all that they're doing. They don't even understand the danger of this deal to Big Ten institutions. They've got it completely backwards. And here's the other thing. They still are calling it a private equity deal. Like all of them. Did they get their, where are they getting their marching orders? Honest, all of them are calling a private equity deal. In this deal, if things are going fantastic, if there's new revenue creation, if the current revenue streams get enlarged, because you're able to bundle up the purchasing power, the leverage of 18 schools into a Big Ten for-profit enterprises. If it actually works, which I think a lot of these guys are scared that it's going to work, but if it actually works, the Big Ten institutions individually can purchase the UC investment 10% stake. They can take a 0.5%, they can take a full percent. A lower worthless Big Ten program can buy some of that UC investment stake. That's what they can do. Does that sound like a private equity deal from a private equity firm? No. They cannot get the basics of this deal correct. So therefore, I do not know what the future holds. This is college football's peek around the corner. And as you know, I'm not a high finance guy. I barely got 2 quarters scratching together in my front pocket. But because of the complete farce of the reporting and the disingenuous of the reporting, the horrific reporting on a massive grand scale, the leaks, everything about it, I fully approve of the deal because it must be a great deal because people are spending so much time ripping it apart when they're not even getting any of the facts correct that we know of. So let me start there. I approve of the deal. And if 7 years from now, if this is a horrific deal because UC investments are not making the money that they thought, then I'm going to come on here. If I'm still alive, if I'm still on this blue planet, I'm going to say to you all, I'll take the big L. I'm sorry, University of Minnesota, that I've cost you, and I'll take the big hit. But I approve of this deal because of the people that are against it. Their arguments are so piss poor at this point, and they're so disingenuous that this must be a great deal. It must be a great deal. It must be a great deal. And I'm at the point. DEFCON 1, Rock and Rant, and I'm not going to let up. Oh no, we're just getting started. Buckle up and brace for impact. I'm at the point, not only do I approve of this deal, but I approve of 16 of the schools doing it without Michigan and USC. Not only do I approve of the deal of 16 schools doing it, I hope to God they do it for more than the reasons that I just described. I hope they do it because then when the SEC follows up, I want to watch all that play out, and I want to see what the reporters do with that story. All right, we're going to get to it. We are going to get to the Matt Hayes' article. And then we're going to get to a certain person who reposted that article. But first, I want to do the roll call. I appreciate you all coming on in. And then we are going to get to, we're going to talk a little bit of football. And then we're going to get to the Matt Hayes' article and why I am going on another rant. Roman Maroney's in the house. Thanks for coming on in. Sean, Rock and Rant. Somebody said something to me about him saying, oh yeah, USC, Michigan. A USC, I don't know. I'll go ahead and post it here. What is this outlet called? The Trojan Blade. The Trojan Blade tonight at 4 p.m. Over on YouTube, calling for USC's football independence. We'll be discussing all the latest rumors, going over why USC said no to the Big Ten's slimy capital investment scheme, and sadly giving Notre Dame fans credit for being correct. Independence is the way. Well, I mean, that's fine. I answered, bring your checkbook. No, on second thought, bring bags of cash and we'll start to negotiate. Since the Big Ten gore goes to 2036 and you have yet to inquire about taking the conference to court, make sure you bring multiple bags of overflowing cash. As I said, as I've begun to say, I am for the deal even if it's 16 schools. I do not know much about, I really do not have a strong opinion, and that might change, but I really do not have a strong opinion on if USC is going to change their mind on this deal. But Michigan, I don't think Michigan is budging. I don't think Michigan is going to budge. And I think the a certain Michigan Board of Regents person is, I think he enjoys I think he enjoys what is going on right now. I think he's happy. And he ain't no Michigan man. I'll tell you that. Well, we'll get into it. We will get into it. Kenneth Stromness, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate your generosity. Thank you for starting us off today. Thanks for your hard work, Greg. I appreciate it. Thank you, Kenneth Stromness. I appreciate it. Thank you so very much, Kenneth Stromness. Thank you for your generosity. Healing, Florida is in the house. Ryan Brooks. Brian Kelly not really fired. I don't know, Ryan Brooks. Sounds like the latest reports that LSU has offered settlement offers of $25 or $30 million, according, I think, to Brian Kelly's lawyers or representatives. LSU may be trying to do a fire by cause. I don't know, sir. I don't know what's going on. But there are going to be better days for LSU. The coaching search is going to be dramatic, I think. And hope for better days, Ryan Brooks. Mountaineer Memes is in the house. No, there's no singing today. I did my singing yesterday. Janus is in the house. RT is in the house. Vox Quindaro is here. Richard L. Yeah. Very accurate comment, Richard L. Very accurate comment. Son of Sarek is here. Kayla Ramirez. Young Buck Sr. Observer 46 is in the house. The Big Gun Shop. Tom Debate. My Prof. Let the chaos continue. Anthony Carlson is in the house. Oh, yeah. Golden Blue Dude would be going crazy over this. Stephen Vitt is in the house. No, it's not Feinbaum. Flint Dog is here. Flint Dog is in the house. You are correct, Flint Dog. You are correct. The wolf inside the Big Ten house is not UC Investments. It's somebody else. MBM, Jonathan Price, Grateful Trojan, Daniel Gygax, Mr. Mountaineer, Expedition Greg, the Almighty Finn. I know the weather is coming in bad already. Chris Kinney is in the house. Jansen Roberts, thanks for coming on in. The Big Ten should have kept this under wraps. It's not being leaked by the Big Ten. It's being leaked by people who do not want the deal to happen. Dave B is in the house. Outlaw Skis is here. Bimba 7579 is here. 20 years is way too long for Gore. What will the media even look like in 20 years? Well, this Gore, again, is not attached to the media rights. Whatever the Gore is, there's going to be new negotiations on a new media rights package for the Big Ten in 2029, which will start in 2030, 31. The Gore and the media rights are not attached. So it's not basically all the grant of rights is doing for the Big Ten is as an individual school, you're handing over your rights and negotiations to the conference. And if Michigan is not in the Big Ten, they're going to be somewhere else, and their rights are going to be owned by somebody else. And we've talked about it. Adam Vulture is in the house. Thanks for coming on in. CW2 is in the house. Jose is here. Grateful Trojan, Vibe Circuit, John Till. Appreciate it. Thank you so very much. John Till, Super Chat. So you're saying the Big Ten is heel and SEC is babyface? Yes. But I'm Jesse Ventura. I guess I am the heel announcer. Hopefully that explains it. Thank you for the $2 holler, John Till. Thank you so much. Daniel Gygax, why is there a whisperer campaign? Who started it? Michigan, USC, Notre Dame? Those who do not want the deal to happen, and quite honestly, pretty much every college football national reporter out there that does not work for Fox or the Big Ten. They've been, I'm going to show you guys something. You remember all this stuff? Yesterday we were talking about, we're going to talk football here, and then we're going to go into the Matt Hayes' article. That's what we're doing. We're going to talk some football, and then we're going to go into the Matt Hayes article, and then we're going to go into why that was so. We're gonna get into it. But remember yesterday when people in the chat room and reporters and articles and people on YouTube channels were saying, if this is such a good idea, why is the Big Ten keeping it so secret from their board members? And why is this all happening? Well, I was told yesterday that was absolutely BS. Remember when I talked about it, I said, this stuff has been out there in so many different ways. There have been meetings and Zoom calls and over, and the Big Ten people are pissed that this is being reported in this manner. All this basically is, from a Big Ten perspective, is all these reporters are all so pissed off that they're going after Tony Petitti's integrity. At this point, that's what this is. And I reported to you all yesterday. Nothing has been being kept secret from anybody. Not from the Big Ten. The Big Ten has unloaded this information so many different times because the information has changed. UC investment didn't even come in the picture until July. And since then, and they blew out all the other potential deals, that the information has been loaded up and given to everybody. One of the Acker lies, by the way, the nut job from Michigan. One of his lies. Let me show you a report. And this is what I got yesterday. Scott Dochterman, earlier today, a Big Ten school official on the perceived lack of transparency regarding the league's $2.4 billion financial arrangement. There's a piece of this that is just ridiculous. So whatever anybody thinks about the deal, the idea that there hasn't been transparency is laughable. There have been hundreds of hours. This has been an item on a weekly AD agenda for over a year. There have been meetings with presidents, individual meetings with institutions, which include USC and Michigan, multiple times and just recently, with an agreement to come and make multiple presentations. And those have happened at institutions where they've been requested for more detail and information. And that level of engagement directly with ADs and presidents and boards, depending on what institutions needed what. This commentary that this is a last minute deal that hasn't had any discussion behind it is just completely a farce. Most of the reporting on this has been a farce. And that's why Rock and Rant and anybody else in the chat room, this ain't going away. I'm not going to leave this lay. I'm not going to leave this lay. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. My level of frustration, again, Scott Dochterman from Big Ten, an official. My level of frustration is about these other things that have an impact on where the Big Ten and where Tony frankly positions himself. And I think are harmful and they're not accurate. And nobody's talking about that piece. I am. I'm talking about that piece. You know what that piece is? College football reporters, for whatever reason, whatever axe they have to grind, whatever political reason, whatever it is, they have been absolutely horrific on this story. Each and every one of them. Who's that guy? Aaron Torrey or whatever? Again, yesterday, he calls it a private equity deal. Not true. He can't even get that right. And he said a few other things completely inaccurate. Like none of them can get anything right. Do they even want to get anything right? Back to Scott Dochterman. I honestly cannot recall a time in which we have been together via Zoom or in person, certainly where this hasn't been a topic of discussion. What has been the topic? The level of frustration about these other things that have an impact on where the Big Ten and where Tony frankly positions himself. What do you think these other things are? Why has Tony had to position himself? In other words, silent Tony. Because these national college football reporters, almost all of them, have basically aligned themselves, all of them together, against the Big Ten. Do I sound like a conspiracy nut? Absolutely. But is it absolutely true? Absolutely. At least from the Big Ten perspective. This is why I came out yesterday and said this is DEFCON 1. This is not a joke. This is not a drill. This is real. The Big Ten is pissed because the reporters are generally they don't care. They're going to let it rip on the Big Ten. They're not going to look at anything and say, well, maybe on one hand and the other. They're not reporting like that. They're putting out bad information. They're not checking. They're not making sure they got it right. It's been a joke. It's been a farce. And that's why I've had to adjust here at Peek Around the Corner. And I'm going to continue to do so. Okay. Let's talk football. A whispering campaign, Daniel Gygax, it is all over the place. Let me get to this. Let me talk a little football here. We got to talk a little football, and then I'm going to go to the Matt Hayes' article. Just wait till we go through that. And then just wait till we see who reposted that article. And then we'll get to your phone calls, and hopefully the phone calls work today. Now, we did our projection 11/3/2025 on the December 7th release of the last, when they make out the final college football playoff projections. I've made a couple changes. Obviously, Memphis no longer sits at number 12. The Memphis James Madison has switched to South Florida James Madison. Now, it could be North Texas, right? It could be East Carolina. There could be other teams in there, but right now we're going to put it USF James Madison at 12. 11, I got Pittsburgh. I don't know who to put there. I had Duke. I don't think it's going to be Duke. I happen to watch on CBS Sports Network a large portion. I'm flipping back and forth. I got a couple of TVs, couple of devices on. CBS Sports Network on 871 Comcast Xfinity here in Maple Grove, Minnesota. I'm watching the Duke-UConn football game. And Duke, man, that defense, That defense ain't going to win them the ACC championship game. Darren Mensah is a beast. They've got offensive weapons, but that defense, That UConn had better athletes on offense than Duke had on defense. So I don't think it's going to be Duke. Pittsburgh, Georgia Tech, sure. Yep. Miami, I don't know what's going to happen. I got Pittsburgh there. ACC champion Pittsburgh at 11. Number 10, I got Vanderbilt. Now, last week we had BYU Vanderbilt. It still could be BYU. If they win out the rest of their games and lose a competitive Big 12 championship game against the Red Raiders, this could be BYU's spot. Or BYU could win the Big 12 championship, of course. But my projections don't have BYU winning the Big 12 championship and maybe not playing close enough game to get that 10th spot. That Vanderbilt 10th spot could be replaced by USC going 10-2, beating Oregon. That number 10 spot could be Michigan beating Ohio State. Don't think that's going to happen. That's why I don't have it on there. That number 10 spot could be Miami. That number 10 spot could be Utah, because they're probably going to win out. They're going to be 10-2, and if BYU gets blown out by Texas Tech, maybe they still have Utah ahead of BYU, even though the head-to-head favors BYU, but there are other metrics, other things to look at. But right now, we've got Vanderbilt at number 10. Feel free to absolutely disagree. Again, this is our projection for what is going to be the final installment of the playoffs on December 7th. Number 9 and number 8, Oregon, Notre Dame. Do-si-do those, whatever you want to do. At right now, we've got 8 and 9. Oregon wins out. They finish 8. Oregon beats USC, Washington. It might not happen, but right now we've got Oregon at 8. Notre Dame wins out. Notre Dame at 9. The toughest part of all this is Texas Tech. Boy, do I hate having them at number 7. I think Texas Tech is a threat to win the whole damn thing. But again, I'm doing a projection on what I think the playoff selection committee is going to do. And unfortunately, I think Alabama is going to lose that SEC championship game, and the playoff selection committee is not going to move Bama out of number 4. And maybe they shouldn't. But when you've got Georgia at 11-1, which is my projection, when you've got Ole Miss finishing 11-1, which is my projection, unfortunately, I think the playoff selection committee is going to have the Red Raiders at number 7. Number 6, Ole Miss. Number 5, Georgia. Number 4, Alabama. 3, Indiana. 2, Texas A&M. 1, Ohio State. I think that is self-explanatory. Again, the chances of this being correct is about 0.0001% chance. But that is my best projection of what it's going to look like. If everything goes the way I think it is. Indiana, number 3, Daniel Gygax. I got Indiana, number 3. Okay, now let's get to the Matt Hayes' article. All right, we got to get back into the Matt Hayes' article. Okay, here we go. Matt Hayes. He let it rip. He let it rip today. Big Ten is letting the wolf in the door, and it's selling its soul. For what? The bizarre and brazen story of the Big Ten trying to financially fleece itself. I don't have the time or the bandwidth to deal with the internal machinations of the Big Ten financial fleecing of itself. So let's begin with the obvious. Is Tony Petitti trying to kill the Big Ten all by himself? All right. Okay. Thank you for dropping in, MBM. I do appreciate it, Mr. Cowboy. Tony Petitti trying to kill the Big Ten all by himself. First of all, if you think this is a really bad deal, well, okay, but it ain't Tony Petitti doing it by himself. So right off the bat, Matt Hayes has got an axe to grind. Tony Petitti's not doing this all by himself. There are a lot of big major players in the Big Ten who happen to believe this is a great deal. Commissioners do not do anything all by themselves. So right away, Matt Hayes is, all right, he's a little angry. Just when you think it couldn't get worse than the last dolt of a conference commissioner asking players to run 2 seasons and 9 months during a global pandemic, who ruined the Big Ten's reputation with something called the Alliance before bolting for the NFL, Petitti has decided to hang his tenure as the Big Ten commissioner on allowing the wolf through the door. The wolf, private equity. Well, it's not private equity. It's not from a private equity firm, but don't let the facts get in the way, Matt Hayes, of writing this article to get all this out of your system. For all your brethrens and sisters of the college football reporters to be able to all get together and repost this and have an old gay old time. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you financial stupidity. The Big Ten, the richest and most financially secure conference of all, by a wide margin, desperately trying to jump in bed with private equity in exchange for a piece of each school's valuable and ever-increasing media rights. And by jump in bed, I mean sell its soul. Because once those private equity sharks, whose entire reason for being is, how can I say this? Make money above all else. Well, again, if you watched this early in the program, USC investments making a whole lot of money is good for the Big Ten. Not making money is bad for the Big Ten. Matt Hayes has got it all backwards. He's got it all backwards. But anyways, we've already been through that part. Making money above all else are allowed 1 foot in the door. The Big Ten will cease to exist as we know it. 1 foot becomes one more favor, and then another. And then the next thing you know, the Sharks are swimming in what was once an oasis. And for what? To win games? Look, if the 16 Big Ten athletic departments who receive full shares of media rights, money can't exist on a projected $75 million in fiscal 25, there are more than 100 FBS schools who are dying to try, including Oregon and Washington, the most recent Big Ten additions, who are being phased in financially over the course of the media rights deal. Here's the problem with Petitti's end around. He's trying to pull it off in the middle of the most dramatic change in the history of college sports, using both the distraction of the ever-evolving framework and the desperation of member institutions who don't yet know how to get their arms around the unwieldy beast. These universities, who had to deal with former Commissioner Kevin Warren, convincing their presidents the SEC was the boogeyman and was coming for their cash, And that's why they had to destroy the Pac-12 and the perfectly imperfect college football framework by proxy. Now have a commissioner who continues to make baffling moves that aren't in the best interest of the legendary conference. You want more money? Expand the playoff to 16 teams like the SEC and every other FBS conference wants, and get more media rights money from your television partners. You want more money? I'm staring at millions given to Oregon and Washington who were added to the league because of some dolt decided to grab USC and UCLA without thinking it through, and then realize the two schools that were in many cases 3 time zones from the conference footprint needed travel partners. In my best, Deshaun Foster went in LA, Los Angeles. The best part of Petitti's shell game is to look, is it to took USC and Michigan, apparently the only rationally thinking members of the stoic and stodgy conference, to grind the gears and to slow the roll of a running the conference off a financial cliff. The Big Ten is calling this proposed $2.4 billion deal with the devil a plan, because plan sounds like something that was analyzed and scrutinized and is an agreeable structure. Not a deal which sounds more like somebody is winning and somebody is getting the short end of it. Let me explain as easily as possible, again, without getting into the weeds of it all, because obviously you haven't gotten into the weeds of it all, Matt Hayes. You've got an inch deep on this story. Maybe that's all you can handle. Who's winning and who's losing? If you're trying to pass this deal without each university board of trustees digesting the specifics, you might be on the short end of it. Again, false. False. As Scott Dochterman has just reported, Big Ten, we reported it yesterday. This is false. I do not expect Matt Hayes to do an extraction, but this is false. The Board of Trust, they've all got the specifics. They've all had it. This is, excuse me, I almost said something that I should not. This is BS. Absolutely BS. The fact universities at some schools are using presidents and or athletic directors to sign off on this deal is remarkably reckless. University presidents are hired to raise money. Athletic directors are hired to spend it. My God, this can't be real. Well, according to the Big Ten structure, the Big Ten presidents do have the authority to sign off on this deal, as we proved yesterday. The Big Ten reported $928 million in revenue last year, fiscal 2025. USA Today Sports projects, blah, blah, blah. There isn't a revenue problem in the Big Ten. There's a budget problem. And then there's Petitti opening his arms to private equity sharks. Again, not private equity. Matt Hayes has spent no time researching this deal. None. He can't get anything right on it. Then there's Petitti opening his arms to private equity sharks whose sole purpose in life is to making deals which they benefit. They're not just they're not just giving you $2.4 billion out of the goodness of their heart. They sure as hell aren't doing it without influence, unintended or otherwise. They're doing it because they got a big fish on the line, one who's hungry and needs to feed. And they sure as hell aren't doing it without, I did that already, sorry. No matter how many souls it takes with it. All right. Now, let me clean something up here. I got I'll get to you all in a moment. Give me a moment, please. Give me a moment. So Matt Hayes, I mean, I get it. A lot of people are going, a lot of people here are going to agree with what Matt Hayes said. He got a lot of things factually incorrect. I don't think he cares. All the national football reporters who reposted this incredible article, they don't seem to care. But that's not what I'm concerned with. That is not what this show is about. This show is actually not about Matt Hayes. This show is actually not about Matt Hayes. The article, we just went through it. Now, let me show you something. Let me show you something. Matt Hayes, and I got really, Matt Hayes, look, he hates the Big Ten. He's always hated the Big Ten. In this article, he calls it a legendary conference and blah, blah. I mean, look, Google it. He's always making fun of it. That's fine. You know what? He's got an audience for that. He actually probably, in some ways, believes what he actually wrote, even though a lot of it was factually incorrect. Okay. All right, Matt Hayes wrote his article. He's got the freedom to write that article. If USA Today let him releases it, editor, bop. All these college football reporters, they can repost it. Okay, fine. In this article, Matt Hayes does not just go after this deal, which he falsely describes, but he also goes after getting USC and UCLA and Washington and Oregon, and basically Matt Hayes, and we've known this throughout the years, doesn't like anything that the Big Ten does. Okay, that's Matt Hayes. But this is where I have to step in, because this nut job, Jordan Acker, repost this USA Today article. Jordan Acker reposted that article from Matt Hayes. Jordan Acker, who supposedly is the one really smart guy in the Big Ten that is holding up this deal. Jordan Acker University of Michigan Region. He's reposting a Matt Hayes article that basically lambasts everything that the Big Ten has done. Not just this deal, everything. This is the wolf inside the house. This Acker loves what's going on. Do you remember what Jordan Acker said? He said, this ain't a good enough deal. We have to explore a better deal. We've got to actually talk with each other. We know that there's been months of discussions. There have been months of proposals. And this has been the best one by far, according to the other 17 universities. And Jordan Acker said the following: we still have to search for a better deal. There are better deals out there. He said that. Well, where are the better deals, Jordan Acker? Where are the better deals? You don't got any, do you? Because Jordan Acker, Obviously, you've been against everything the Big Ten has done for a decade at least. You're not the only one, by the way. I mean, again, newsflash. There are board members all over this country of ours in positions that can't stand college athletics. There are political appointees. We talked about the Virginia Board of Visitors, how it's situated in one way, but now that after the election, it's going to be situated another way. Jordan Acker is a political player. He loves the politics of this. He reposted a Matt Hayes. This guy does not have Big Ten interests at heart. If he did, he would not be given ammo cover to an SEC hatchet man, Matt Hayes. What he would be doing is be spending his time trying to get a better deal, whatever that is, Jordan Acker, but you're not interested in that, are you? What I have heard, we've talked about it here, people. I said it last week. There is one faction now remaining in the Big Ten, and is the Ohio State faction because of this guy. Did I say something that I wasn't supposed to say? Because of this guy. He's not working with people. He's not negotiating nothing. He ain't looking for a better deal. He's spending his time reposting Matt Hayes, who can't stand the Big Ten. This is why the end around is happening, Matt Hayes, and every college football reporter that has reposted this dumb. This is why. This is why Scott Dochterman released, and I don't talk to Scott Dochterman, but this is what Big Ten people are. This is DEFCON 1. It is. Because they know that these reporters are not playing fair at all. This is the Super League BS. All this stuff has been a form of cloak and dagger to do whatever they can to stop whatever the Big Ten wants to do. That's what this is about. There are reasonable, smart people who are against this deal. I'm sure there is. But none of them that I have seen has actually described this deal in how it actually is. And again, for the 50th time, maybe the 75th time, maybe, I don't know what the number is at this point. I am the original Minnesota moron. I can't count up that high. But once again, somebody talks about this deal. Somebody, Matt Hayes and these other college football reporters, talk about the evil of this deal. They talk about how Tony Petitti is trying to wreck the conference. How could they do this? How could they sell their soul? And again, they completely avoid talking about the Big Ten enterprises. They don't want to talk about that. Why is that? The underlying reason why they don't want to talk about any of this, they don't want to have a true, serious discussion. Andy Staples definitely doesn't. None of them do. None of them do. And the reason why they don't, because they just don't want the Big Ten to have another good idea. To have another idea that forces everybody else to have this idea. They're not doing this because they're afraid that the Big Ten is going to lose their reputation. They're going to go down in destruction. No, they're afraid that this is actually going to work. That's it. That's it. They don't want this to happen because it actually might work. You know, they don't want the larger college football playoff format with auto bids because that's going to take a little bit of the power and influence away from the voters and the voices of College Football Report. I mean, right down the line, their main attachment in college football reporting is to the main interests of the Southeastern Conference. Matt Hayes has every right to say what he said. College football reporters, they all can back him up. That's fine. But when you have Jordan Acker, the Board of Regents, the man who is grinding this, the man who took his minions and talked to USC during the Michigan USC football, for that dude to repost this article, the mask has completely slipped off. I'm going to make sure that everybody knows the mask has completely slipped off because that was what I do. I'm going back to my roots. This might not be the National College Football Show for you. To those in the PATC family, there is a complete sea change going on. That Big Ten official who talked honestly to Scott Docterman basically opened up a vein. There is not a meeting that happens in the Big Ten in which they're not discussing the toxic element that is out there that is basically anti-Big Ten on every single thing. The mockery, the disinformation, the disingenuous. They know it. So that is why Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon and Washington, Nebraska, Iowa, they're looking out for themselves, and they don't give a damn anymore about this outside, as this official tried to describe. They don't give a damn because Matt Hayes does not have the Big Ten's best interests at heart, which is fine. Neither does Andy Staples, which is fine. Neither does none of these guys and women, which is fine. But Jordan Acker, this guy who supposedly is working with the Big Ten while reposting a Matt Hayes' hatchet job. This is why the Buckeyes have done the end around on this, because they know there is not going to be any Michigan movement. It's worthless to even have these discussions anymore. You're either going to do it as a 16 or 17 team grant a rights extension, UC investment. You're either going to do it that way or you're not going to do it at all. Michigan is unmovable because Jordan Acker is not serious. Not a serious player. Jordan Acker has given comfort, cover to those who would love the Big Ten to get ripped apart. That is the Big Ten perspective on it. This is why last week, even though I got mocked and ridiculed, there's only one faction. It is the Ohio State faction. They are leading this. And if they finally decide, all right, we're not going to do it now, then it ain't going to happen. But I have finally been led to believe that Michigan, incredible university, wealthy, unbelievable brand, unbelievable fan base. They're just not a player in this anymore. They're not, because of this guy. He'd rather be sending this, reposting out. When Jordan Acker sent this out, that might have been the reason why the Big Ten official finally came. I mean, This guy is not, there is no, there's a fracture in the Big Ten. And the schools that are on one side of the fracture, the 16 of them, are going to do all that they can to work in concert with each other, not to have these outside influences play a larger part of their decision making. I'm going to go to your phone calls. I am going to go to your phone calls, and give me a moment, please. We've got a massive super chat by Cope. I appreciate it. I now see USC and Texas would have obliterated the Pac-16. Wow, thank you for the massive super chat, Cope. I appreciate it, sir. I think you are a sir. If you are not, I apologize. Thank you. I appreciate your generosity. Thank you so very much. Thank you. Again, USC is I'm not even really talking about USC today because I have heard conflicting things. USC might come aboard. USC might come aboard. And USC might have very good, but the Michigan stuff, this Jordan Acker, that's a whole different kettle of fish. Thank you, Cope. I appreciate it. Kayla Ramirez, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. And that's another thing. Kayla Ramirez, ACC schools that are in favor of private capital would be watching this and can change their mind. They may go to the Big Ten instead. Thank you for the $5 holler, Kayla Ramirez. I very much appreciate that comment. And that's going to segue me into, you know what? That is a great comment. I'm going to be careful in what I say here. In some parts of this. Number one, this deal that was presented to the Big Ten was much better than anybody expected. Now, you can still have the philosophy that the Big Ten should still not do this. But this deal blew away everything. Because the UC investment, the valuation of $24 billion came in much higher than anybody else. And UC investment would not have a controlling voice in it. And you could buy back their stake. And UC investment would be absolutely motivated to make as much money as possible for them because the Big Ten institutions would also get that money. UC investment thinks this is a great deal. Most of the Big Ten schools think this is a great deal. People outside of this universe, people in private capital, private equity, they all think that this is a no-brainer. And they're telling Big Ten officials this is a no-brainer, which, by the way, it's another part of the story that none of these college football reporters will report on. Are any of them talking to these private capital people, private equity people right now to have their judgment on this deal? No. Why is that? Because these third-party people are all saying this is, of course the Big Ten should do this. But again, college football reporters, they don't want to report that. They don't even want to report the possibility of that. The lack of curiosity is unbelievable. Having said all of that, sorry, I apologize. Okay, everybody calm down. Everybody calm down. Everybody calm down. The other part of this is that there's schools outside the Big Ten who believe in this. That's another issue. There's schools that are going, God dang it. I would take this in a heartbeat. I hope the Big Ten offers us. Geez, I hope Michigan and USC somehow leave. And they're not. If they do, it's not going to be for a long time. There are other schools that wish they would have this deal. We know that. I mean, it is and the reporters won't talk about that. It's just, oh, Big Ten horrible, Big Ten horrible, Big Ten horrible. They're stupid, blah, 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 blah. And there's other schools that absolutely believe in this. And this is a much better deal than they would have ever. This is a way better deal than these other schools and other conferences have seen in front of them. Which again, none of the college football reporters want to talk about. And here is one more thing. Since this, at some point, this college football YouTube channel will probably be shut down by Google. That the forces that be. One more thing about this. Notre Dame. I do know, you could take this however you want it, but I do know that Notre Dame has received a bunch of offers, or they've had a lot of doors open to them. They've been talking with people. In Notre Dame, they've had their internal discussions, and Notre Dame is 100% against private equity. They determined that in 2024. They redetermined that in 2025. Notre Dame is against private equity. However, Notre Dame does not deem this deal as private equity. The reason for that is because it ain't. And I don't know, maybe that is what scares. Maybe that is what scares the college football reporters and everybody in SEC land and Big 12 land and ACC land and maybe even Big 10 land. Just throwing that out there because this is not a private equity deal. Thank you, Caleb Ramirez, for your $5 holler. I appreciate it. Vibe Circuit. USC should get Michigan's share. Acker is done for, January 1st, 2027. So he's trying to make a name for himself. Oh, he is. He is. He is. He is making a name of it. And he's loving every minute of it. He's got all these reporters saying, oh, yeah, the Board of Regents they need more information. They need more time. They all should have a vote, even though the Big Ten structure says they don't. Acker is, he's got these reporters wrapped around his fingers. He knows it, and he's given them kudos. He's given them flowers, and he reposted the Matt Hayes' SEC Hatchet piece, and it's all one big backslapping party. That is the wolf that is in the Big Ten house, not UC Investments. Because at least UC Investments have been honest with their dealings and patient. Acker has not been. Thank you, Vibe Circuit, for your generosity. Cloak and Dagger for 9 months. You are officially knighted. Officially knighted. Cloak and Dagger. Okay. I'm a hoping and I'm a praying. John Till's super chat. I'll get to my prayer in a second. Why not? Super chat, John Teal. Why not tell Michigan to kick rocks and tag in with Notre Dame? Well, first of all, we do not know if Notre Dame would like this deal. We do know that they know they I got to be careful. People know that this is not a private equity deal. I'll just leave it at that. But you can't kick Michigan out. Michigan is a fully invested member of the Big Ten. They're under the grant rights to 2036. Nobody wants to see Michigan leave. Michigan is a giant. Nobody wants to see Michigan leave. But they're probably going to have to do this deal without them, if they're going to do the deal. And people understand where Acker is. They know the actor that they know. They're not. If they're going to do this, they're going to have to do the end run around Acker. Stormy Cyclone, get this done, Big 10, so the Big 12 can do the same. Cloak and dagger. Thank you, Stormy Cyclone. I appreciate it. You are knighted. Once again. Early peak, cloak and dagger. Thank you, Mr. Cyclone. I appreciate your generosity. Now, thank you, Stormy. Thank you, Vibe Circuit. Appreciate it. John Teal Cope with a massive super chat. Kayla Ramirez, Daniel Gygax, Kenneth Stromness, John Teal. I am praying that the phone lines work. I think they will work, but I cannot promise you a rose garden. 763-260-1333. Call us up. Talk about anything in college football. Let me know how wrong I got the projections. Let me know how wrong I got it all here at Peek Around the Corner.
Call from
Wild Ute.
Wild Ute. Now, thank you for calling Wild Ute. Can people hear Wild Ute? Can people hear Wild Ute? Wild Ute, say something.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear Wild Ute? Yes. Okay, things are working. Wild Ute, thank you for the phone call. I do appreciate it. Mr. Utah man, what do you have to say for yourself? Are you angry with me because I do not have Utah on my December projections, even though I did mention them as a possibility?
I'm very angry with you, Greg.
Well,
I'm furious with you, actually.
You can join the party, sir.
Yeah, the Utes have an outside shot to get in the playoffs.
Yes, they do.
We'll have to see. They're going to have to blow out the teams and beat them and get some luck, too. We'll see how it shakes out. This live show today is fascinating, though. I've been listening to it, and just a couple discussion points and everything. And first off, I keep hearing like the structure and like what this money should be called, right? Like it's private capital, private equity, and stuff. And I know in your view with people you talk to, they've mentioned that this isn't private equity. But being in like the finance world, Greg, it sounds like private equity to me. It sounds like something called private equity with a minority valuation, where you establish a new entity and have UC Investments buy in 10%, and the Big Ten entities would have the rest of the 90% ownership, and that technically is kind of a private equity structure, for a deal and stuff. So is that true? How I'm understanding it, or is there something that I'm missing there? I was just kind of curious about like the wording, because I think that does spook people off if like they think of it as like a private equity structure. It's commonplace like in pro sports and stuff, but is there anything else that I'm missing with that?
No, I don't think you are. I think again, like Matt Hayes' article is extreme, but it's not. I have, with my little knowledge of it, I have tried to explain what the deal is as far as I know. And it's not like, for example, according to Ross Dellinger, the Big Ten institutions are able to purchase the 10% stake of UC Investment. So that's not a particular relationship in which UC Investment has their foot in the door and they're going to grab more and more and more. It's actually the Big Ten can say, wow, this is fantastic. Now we're going to buy you out.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. That's something. I think I agree with you. This is actually a fantastic deal for the Big Ten. Like 100%. Like you get UC Investments, it's going to be like a small equity holder. They'll have 10% equity in like the media rights and like the Big Ten assets. But like, hey, they're not going to be knocking stuff around. I think what's the big misnomer here is like UC Investments is not a private equity group.
Yeah.
That's like a shark, right?
Yeah.
That's going to just try to take your company from you. This is just more of like, hey, like a kind of a safe pension fund investor and everything that's investing in your conference. So that's why, it seems like a good idea just to get the upfront money. Maybe they can bring some more partnerships into play and stuff. And so I think that it's a go, but I think your pulse is right on the bigger picture here, what's going on with like the media. Mm-hmm. And think about this. You probably ought to thought about this. I'm sure you've talked to people about this too. But if the Big Ten does this deal, then it's going to effectively force the SEC to do a private equity deal too. In my view, because of the finance swings, right? Like you get this $135 million up front. Go ahead.
Well, I think, again, Wild, you know that I am the original Minnesota moron, that I know not really truly nothing about this high finance stuff. All I can say is that there are true believers out there. Now, they may be absolutely wrong, right? But there are true believers in this Big Ten enterprises, part of it. And the UC investment is going to fuel this, right?
Yeah.
So there are true believers out there. And what I have been told, and you and I have had off-air discussions on it and everything, is that there are real true believers out there on building a strategic partner, and this is one of the options and everything. So if this, like, that's on a selfish, can I be selfish for a moment? On a selfish part of this, I'm hoping it happens because I want to see the SEC's reaction to it. And when they react to it, I want to see what the National College Football Reporters' reaction to it. Because it ain't going to be the same as their reaction to the Big Ten. That's the selfish part of me going out. The immature part of me going out. I agree. I think the SEC is going to react somehow in some way because that is, that's what's going on here.
I think that you're onto something here, Greg. And like if in my view, the SEC would almost be obligated to do a like structure because it'd be so beneficial for the Big Ten. Because you have this Big Ten enterprises, you're going to be bringing new revenue streams in, not just the upfront money. And like the SEC is going to have to replace their current structure in kind with a similar Big Ten structure, probably for a pretty similar amount of money. But who is the loser in if that happens? That's the root of this all. This is why I wanted to call. Like, who's the big loser if the SEC gets a new valuation, mirrors what the Big Ten's proposing right here, and all of a sudden, like all the SEC assets are more valuable than they are today because of this new structure? Who loses in that?
ESPN.
Who has to pay more for SEC rights in the future?
ESPN.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
they're
going to be paying a lot more.
Yeah. It's and of course this would be an accelerant to everything going on, and you're absolutely right. Wow, dude.
Anyway, just was thinking about that stuff. I love the content today, so thanks for letting me call in, Greg.
You got it, buddy. I appreciate it. Call again, sir. Wow, Jude. Vibe Circuit says ESPN doesn't want the SEC to do this. I have said that Fox doesn't want the Big Ten to do anything like this, but then again, I've also reported a peek that whole structure is going to change in the future. More on that later when we get a chance.
Call from
Christopher, do not pay.
Christopher Hooter, the floor is yours, but can you can you hold on for a moment?
Yeah, take time.
I do apologize, sir. We got some super chats. Very kind people supporting this Rebel Outpost show here. CAC. Michigan former President Santo Ono was the Big Ten's lead on this deal. Now we know why President Ono ran away from Michigan. Maybe very interesting thought. Yeah, it's one of those. It's one of those storylines within a storyline within a storyline. If Santo Ono was still the president, this whole thing would be quite different today. But he's not, and Jordan Acker has stepped up to the plate, and the old mask has slipped off his face. Thank you, CAC, for the $15 holler. I appreciate your super chat. John Till, super chat. John Till, Ohio State gave it the green light. Nebraska taking Michigan for a ride out in the cornfields. Huckers gets one out to pee. Minnesota's backseat with a revolver. Bang. Leave the pistol. Take the cannoli. Thank you, John Till. Thank you for your creative post. I always love that. You know that, John Till. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you so very much. I appreciate it. Rock and Rant, not disputing your take on Hayes or Ackerman, but not all the media doesn't do their job or is pro-SEC. True, Big Ten, Tony needs some years, relationship two-way street. Big Ten has some of the worst PR comms I've seen. I'm going to have to respectfully somewhat disagree with you, agree to disagree. I used to be under the tent that believed the Big Ten's PR was horrific. Silent Tony, I'm the one who coined him that name. I bashed them. I got no problem bashing the Big Ten when I happen to think they deserve to get bashed. But now I'm not in that tent anymore. I completely understand, because no matter what the Big Ten would have done or said, they're going to, you're correct. Not all the college football reporters are pro-SEC. And not all the college football reporters are anti-Big Ten. But man, oh man, a whole dang lot of them are, and they're not covering it up anymore. And I've had to make adjustments here at Peek Around the Corner. Christopher Hooter, thank you for your patience. I appreciate it so much. The floor is yours.
Did you like the thing about Brian Kelly? I stuck in my name.
So he's not what's going on, Christopher Hooter? What is going on?
I'm not sure what's going on. I've heard what's going on. They're trying not to pay him $54 million. They're trying to pay him $30 million, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's more to the story. I have heard rumors that this may not be cause to fire somebody, but this might just be hearsay, right? When somebody gets fired, these stories go around. But the rumor was that Brian Kelly was spending a little too much time on the golf course and he wasn't giving her,
And that was the same at Notre Dame, by the way. Same rumors at Notre Dame.
Right? Okay. Now maybe that's just because he left and and those stories came
up. It's a style. Yep.
But the old ball coach did that too, and he didn't have a problem, right? So, maybe they're just. We'll see what happens. But what is going on? And I know we're talking about LSU now, but with the Mel Tucker lawsuit with Michigan State, because that's still going on too. That hasn't been settled.
I haven't.
So he has sued Michigan State right, and that right, and they didn't pay him anything. You know more about that situation than me. There was a consensual relationship or something.
I haven't gone down that road in a long time. I did not know that wasn't settled yet. So I'm gonna.
I do not think that's settled.
Okay,
I think that's active.
Okay, I'm gonna write myself a note here.
It came up with a buddy of mine. We were talking with a couple people, actually. I was texting back and forth. I go, what has happened with that Mel Tucker thing, right? And they say, I think it's still going. And I Googled it. I think it still is. So LSU might be looking at that. Now, granted, that's a different state and, maybe different laws and those sorts of things. But who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway, but
what is the is there any like steam on LSU? Who potentially, with the new athletic director, like how is their search going to work? Is there any steam on who the top candidates are? Is it still like a Lane Kiffin, James Franklin, maybe John Summerall? Is that the names floating around, or?
It's the usual guys. One of the long shot guys is the defensive coordinator from the Detroit Lions. Is it Shepard? But because he's like the hot defensive coordinator in the NFL right now, and he might be picked up for a head coaching job in the NFL. So he was sort of an early name that was just kind of thrown out there. I don't know. I really don't know who they're going to get, right? All I know is they're not going to pay $100 million. That's all I know. No, they might give them $15 million a year for 3 years.
Yeah.
But they're not going to do a 10-year, $100 million contract. You can write that down. They're not going to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, unless it's a Nick Saban or somebody, right? Which they're not going to get. But other than something like that.
Yeah.
So. But I tuned in a little late here. I'm saying you're all fired up, man. This is 2 days in a row. You're going wild.
Yeah, I'm hoping like tomorrow we're going to be making our picks against the spread for week 12. So I'm going to have to calm it down. I'm going to have to focus because my record is 66-66, which is horrific, but better than the previous 3 years. But I want to have a winning record. It's embarrassing. So I'm going to calm down tomorrow. I'm not going to get all lit up. Tomorrow we're going to be making our picks against the spread.
Have a glass of wine before you go to bed so you sleep good, right?
Yes.
All right, the media. Okay,
Yeah.
Now I know the media is now focusing on the Big Ten, right? I mean, that's true. But, just 2 or 3 months ago, Greg Sankey was the evil Darth Vader. He's trying to kill college football. I mean, he was taking all the arrows a few months ago. And your buddy Silent Tony was, silent, right? But when you're the big kids on the block, now it's Big Tens in the crosshairs. Well, they'll be there a while, and then to go back to the SEC, I wouldn't fret that too much.
Yeah.
If you fall.
If this was
You're stuttering.
If this was an isolated, when you said now this is about the Big Ten. I mean, this has been going on for like 3 years. The press, no matter what the issue is, I know I sound like a bitter old man, which I am, but this has been the operandi of the press. This is like, for example, reading and listening to the college football reporters on a large degree is like talking about the Big Ten is like watching Fox News talk about Democrats or MSNBC talk about Republicans, right? I mean, it's literally it's all predictable. It's all going one way. They've all got an axe to grind, and they're going to grind it every day, and they're all going to walk in lockstep, and there's nothing going to change it. That's how I see it.
Well, we're about the same age. I'm 58. I think you're 57. When we were kids, growing up watching, we're a little young for Woody Hayes, but Bo Schembechler and all that, right? The Big Ten got all the press.
Yeah.
It was all about the Big Ten and Notre Dame and USC, right? And maybe Oklahoma or Nebraska, and but yeah, over the decades the worm has turned. But if you smear it out over 58 years, Greg, you're just gonna have to suck it up, man. It's just your turn to take it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I wanted to call in, say hi.
You got it, buddy.
We'll all right. I'll let you know what happens down in Baton Rouge. We'll see.
I hope so. Appreciate it, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Talk to you. Okay, yeah, bye.
Okay.
From
Chris Kenny.
Chris Kenny, can you hold for a second?
Yes, of course.
I appreciate it. I'm going to give you guys all another example of what I'm talking about. Scott Docterman, as earlier today, we went through this Big Ten school official on the perceived lack of transparency regarding the league's $2.4 billion financial arrangement. All right, he says this piece is just ridiculous. This commentary that the last minute deal that hasn't had any discussion is behind. It's just completely farce. We went through this earlier today, okay? So here's a Big Ten official coming out. Now, here is Andy Staples once again. Andy Staples. I didn't know Andy Staples. I better be careful here. We're being completely transparent, an anonymous source. That's Andy Staples' response to this. Not to what the Big Ten official said, but we're being completely transparent. Like, he's digging in that this source won't give his name. Well, Andy Staples, you don't give a source, you don't give a name to any of your sources, but yet you have. And then Scott Docterman answers back, well, there is a whiff of irony to the situation. You know that an AD's name was out there. The Twitter sphere would go ballistic on that AD, and AD school, and the merit was said and conveyed would get shredded to pieces. Andy Staples' comment to that is, it's also not a real reason why some of the schools want this deal. They want to extend the grant of rights because they're scared Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, and USC, and a few others might wake up one day and realize it's more lucrative to go in the business of Bama and LSU, which Andy Staples is your wet dream, by the way. But that is not what Scott Docterman is going after. That's not what he's trying to present. It's unbelievable. It's like, are these reporters... And then, of course, I respond, the real reason some schools want this deal, large and small, is because the Big Ten enterprises, for whichever reason, you and others won't discuss. This is not about Minnesota holding a butter knife to Michigan. I don't know, man. Again, the more I read and listen to these guys, they've got an agenda, baby. And that agenda is to rip apart the Big Ten. Andy Staples, sorry, man. I used to like you. But that is your agenda. The way you go after Tony Petitti every single time on your show, it's an embarrassment. Even if you disagree with the guy, you have gone after his character time and time again. And it's not just you, it's all of you. And you would never treat Greg Sankey that way. Get off your high horse. Chris Kenny, the floor is yours.
No, thank you, Greg. I share your views. I'm trying to be more zen about this and not share your outrage because, and I've said this on your show a bunch of times because I think it's the truth. Like, they hate us because they ate us. The Big Ten has always been the most hated conference in my lifetime. I'm not as old as the prior caller who said it used to be in the 60s, in the 70s, Big Ten all the time. I suppose that's true, but, I'm 43. And I feel like the Big Ten has always been hated because the Big Ten has always been different. And that doesn't mean the Big Ten has always been right. That doesn't mean the Big Ten hasn't gotten in its own way. That doesn't mean the Big Ten has done dumb, arrogant things. I will be the first to concede all of those things are true from time to time. but I do think a history lesson is worth spending some time on here. The Big Ten was hated when it announced that Penn State was joining the Big Ten in 1990. That this was a school that did not fit the region. This was a school that did not fit the character of the conference, which had been together for so long, and that it was, basically the beginning of building a television behemoth and breaking up all of these Northeastern regional rivalries that Penn State was no longer going to be playing. Traditional media wanted Penn State to either stay independent or go to the Big East, and neither of those avenues worked out, so they went to the Big Ten. And it was announced suddenly, right? Like, the stories are well known that the AD and let alone the Board of Regents, God forbid, it was the university president, Jim Delaney, who approved Penn State's addition and caught the entire country by surprise and basically thought that the Big Ten was getting an unfair advantage over the rest of college football. This was when Penn State was at its absolute peak of power. Now, have they lived up to what they were in the 70s and 80s? No, not really. I mean, they haven't won a national championship. But nevertheless, people hated the Big Ten for what they did at that time. The media wanted the Bowl Alliance, and they wanted, even before that, I should say, it even predates Penn State. The Big Ten did not join the College Football Association after the Oklahoma Regents Supreme Court case. They kept their media rights separate. They did not pool it. They did not join the sort of, pre-Super League before there was a Super League. They stayed out of that. Mm-hmm. When the Bowl Alliance came around, they stayed out of that. They brought the Pac-10 along with them. They kept the Rose Bowl out. People hated them for that. When there started to be when there was finally a BCS and people wanted to go to a playoff, the Big Ten wasn't alone in this, but they were perhaps the most vocal in opposing a playoff. I think the Big Ten was wrong. I think Delaney was wrong, but the Big Ten was hated for that because that was the position that they took that the mainstream media didn't want. And I don't think that was the right decision, but this is sort of the cumulative impact we're talking about why people hate the Big Ten so much. When the debate around paying players began and sort of the inklings of the O'Bannon lawsuit and then the House lawsuit began, and Delaney said, well, if we end up paying players, the Big Ten is going to go D3. That was a stupid comment. It's kind of silly in the moment, but people hate it because it betrayed a level of arrogance that people resent the Big Ten for decades. We've seen it with the expansion of the Big Ten. The Big Ten announces that it wants to go from 11 to 12 teams, and it sets off a frenzy, like it was an episode of The Bachelor. But there's a reason it happened, because all of the time, over the course of these decisions, the Big Ten has been successful. The Big Ten was successful when it launched the Big Ten Network, and it defied ESPN in doing so. People resent that. People in Bristol resent that, and those who depend on Bristol resent that. The Big Ten was successful when it added Rutgers and Maryland, and everybody was so outraged that this powerful conference would take Rutgers and Maryland. They said, why not our program? Why not us? We're better at football. This is just about cable television subscriptions. Oh, how vulgar. Oh, how this is so terrible. It's ruining college football. Guess what? The Big Ten continues to mint money. It was the right decision, but people hated them for it. Look, I think the Big Ten was wrong. I think Kevin Warren was totally wrong on COVID. They made the wrong decision. They realized they made the wrong decision, because they reversed it. But again, the Big Ten did it differently, and people hate them for it. So time and time and time again, the Big Ten has decided to chart its own course. And they're not always right. I don't always agree with it myself, and I am a lifelong loyal Big Ten fan. But this is why people hate them. And I think what really steams them is that the cumulative effect of their decision-making has been successful. Even Matt Hayes, who is the biggest hack, who cannot hold a job, he's on his 10th publication because he's such a loser. Even Matt Hayes is now acknowledging what is obvious fact, which is the Big Ten is the wealthiest by far conference in college football. I would argue it is a co-equal with the SEC in terms of its influence and sway, because nothing's getting done without the Big Ten's assent, right? So the Big Ten is now charting its own course, and people hate that. ESPN hates it. because the Big Ten isn't beholden to the college football apparatus that they have built. And Kirk Herbstreit and Desmond Howard and Joey Galloway, your cable news analogy is so spot on, Greg. They're like the token Republicans on MSNBC who just get up and say how disappointed they are in the Republican Party. They're Harold Ford Jr. on Fox News saying how disappointed, as a fellow Democrat, I am so disappointed in my party. They're just tokens. They say they're Big Ten guys, but they just can't believe what the Big Ten is doing. They're so disappointed in what the Big Ten is up to. There's a reason for that, okay? Like, the one who pays the fiddler calls the tune. ESPN pays the fiddler, they call the tune. There is a reason that all of this pro-SEC mania is going on. It's not so much that they're enthralled to the SEC. It's because the ESPN has built its entire college football brand around the SEC, and it has done so without the Big Ten. Remember, ABC ESPN was a Big Ten network for decades. You turned on ABC on a Saturday afternoon, you were getting two Big Ten games. You were getting Michigan, some combination of Michigan, Penn State, or Ohio State every Saturday. ESPN and ESPN2 were launched with Big Ten content. The ESPN game at noon after game day was always a Big Ten game. But then the Big Ten decided they weren't going to be undervalued by ESPN enough. They weren't going to be taken for granted by ESPN anymore. And they went their own way, and that is a 20-year wound that has not healed. And so you couple that decision with all of the other decisions, compound all of those decisions over a 30, 40-year period, people hate the Big Ten. They think they're elitist. They think that they're arrogant. Maybe they're right to a point. But that's what's going on here. That's why they're critical of this deal. Now, I don't know if this is a great deal or not. I tend to think it's a good deal because you're right. I mean, 16 out of 18 of these big, successful research universities are not all morons. USC is a little. USC feels like it's being undervalued a little bit. That's just money. That can be negotiated and worked out. I think it's interesting, the reporting. I think it was Ross Dellinger who said there's potentially a 6-month grace period for those two schools to join.
Yep.
Well, doesn't this guy Acker's term end at the end of this calendar year?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he's gone. Presumably, Michigan will have a full-time president. And Michigan will come back to – Michigan's not going anywhere. They're not going to the SEC. They're not going independent. You think they're going to join the ACC and be in a conference with Louisville? I don't think so. I don't think that they would vote for Florida State and Clemson if they called tomorrow and said they wanted to join the Big Ten. Those schools might get in, but I don't think Michigan's going to vote. Michigan's not going to vote for them. So Michigan is going to blow up.
And reporters like Andy Staples don't have a clue that that's the fact. I mean – a lot of
forget about the SEC. I'm talking. They're not going to join the league with Duke and North Carolina and Stanford because of those other schools are in there.
Yeah.
So I view this as like, look, they hate us because they ain't us, and I think that the Big Ten is right to say, look, we're moving forward, and you guys decide whether you're joining or not. We'll give you time to buy in if and when the time comes and you come to your senses. But they're moving forward because where are they going to go? USC's not going anywhere. Michigan's not going anywhere. All they have to lose is a cash infusion of $150-something million. Well, if they don't want it, they don't have to have it. But there's a reason that these other schools want it because it seems like a pretty good deal. Yeah. I do have some questions, though, on the deal, which I don't think anyone has public answers to, although I'm sure they've been addressed. But I do think they're worth asking because I think, if I were a university president, these are the questions I would want to know. And I think they're legitimate to ask. The first is, is there recourse to this funding? So, let's say UC Investments projections don't pan out, and the $2.4 billion that they invest into the league, they don't get within the time horizon they're looking for. Is there some sort of provision where they have to be made whole, or they have to be made whole at some premium, and the Big Ten schools are at risk for that? You talked about the Big Ten could basically buy UC out. I mean, that's one way to phrase it. But there's another possibility, which is they're like, look, we're not losing money on this deal, and if it doesn't work out, you all are making us whole. We're getting our money back plus some rate of return. I would want to know the answer to that question if I were voting on this, because that could influence your decision. And I don't think the Big Ten is going to be worth less 15 years from now than it is today. I think the likelihood of that is very, very low, but that is a legitimate question that I think people who want to vet this thing should answer. The second question I would ask is, okay, you're buying a 10% stake in our business. Okay, over time, that means you'll get 10% of the revenues that the Big Ten Enterprises generates. But are you getting 10% of the first dollar or a much greater percentage of the first dollar to recoup your investment more quickly? Kind of like the way Fox did when it helped to bankroll the Big Ten network. And are the Big Ten institutions willing to take less in the short term and eventually get to, those ownership percentages over like a 10-year horizon? So USC or whomever, gets their 4.9% over 10 years, but, they take a lot less up front. I don't know the answer to that question. Maybe they don't. Maybe it's just 10% of every first dollar that comes in, but maybe it's a bigger percentage, and that's something people have to grapple with. Like, those are the kinds of questions, to your point, that serious people thought seriously about this, and I don't consider myself a serious person at all, but presumably someone who's in the business of asking these questions would have asked by now. And if they don't have an answer to that question because nobody will give it to them, then at least just be honest and say, hey, these are the things that we think are worth knowing that these institutions should be, examining before they agree to this, because these are serious business deals. This is serious dollars. And if you don't have an answer, why not? Like, those are the types of legitimate probing questions that a serious journalist, you would presume, might ask.
Yeah.
But none of them have asked any of those questions. Maybe Big Ten Enterprises is a fool's errand. But you would never know that because they aren't asking the questions that could actually give you information to make that kind of decision. They don't want to do that.
Yeah.
They hate the Big Ten because the Big Ten has charted its own course for 30, 40, 50 years. They don't need the mainstream media. They've proven that. They've built their own media apparatus that everybody copied. If this is successful, you're absolutely right. Everybody else is going to copy it.
Yep.
And that really burns a bunch of dorks in Bristol who can't bear the idea that there is a co-equal conference that functions and thrives independent of their influence and manipulation. They can't bury the Big Ten the way they buried NASCAR. They can't bury the Big Ten the way they buried hockey, the way they tried to bury Major League Baseball. They can't get away with that because Big Ten's too strong and too powerful and too popular. So what is the next best thing they do? They trash it nonstop. They stoke the partisan ire of everybody who hates the Big Ten for all the decisions and choices, and frankly, elitism that it's exhibited over the years. And that's all they got. But if this deal does go through and it does succeed, this is what will happen. Everybody else is going to copy it, and all of the hand-wringers are going to say, well, they're only doing it because the Big Ten forced their hand. We can't unilaterally disarm it. The Big Ten is the one who crossed this bridge and everybody else was forced to follow. That's how they're going to save face on this, Greg.
Yeah.
So whether the deal happens or it doesn't happen, I don't really care one way or the other. I think the Big Ten has proven this, and I'll end on this note. Everybody who wants the Big Ten to fall apart because they hate the fact that schools like Minnesota and Northwestern and Rutgers and Maryland and Purdue and pick your other one get to reap the benefits of this 100-plus year association. That's really what all the outsiders hate most about the Big Ten. What they have proven with this ridiculous smear campaign is that the Big Ten is different, and the Big Ten is united. I know there's a fracture here with these other two schools, but 16 out of 18 schools, including the most powerful program in college football, see the value of being in the Big Ten. They see the value that's been generated over the past 50 years, and they're doubling down on that. They're not throwing in with Cody Campbell. They're not throwing in with some stupid Super League. They're actually committing to the thing that these people hate the most, which is Big Ten exceptionalism. And that is what they cannot stand. That's what's driving all of this, and it will be proven correct once again.
Beautiful. Beautiful call, sir.
All right. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Chris Kenny.
Good evening.
Tremendous, legendary call right there by Chris Kenny. Unbelievable. breaking news on 3 Sports. Tulane head coach John Sumrall is a serious contender and a name to know for the Auburn opening. Pete Knuckles reports John Sumrall, I think he's going to be on a lot of lists. He's a serious contender for a lot of jobs. Auburn being one of them. Oh yeah. I can see that. I can see that. John Sumrall, he probably ain't going to be the head coach of Tulane next year. In this coaching carousel, he is going to probably have a new home. Piggyback off the great call that we had by Chris Kenny and such. For weeks and a couple of months, I've been saying I don't know if I'm for this deal or not because there's so many unanswered questions, as the previous great call just pointed out. You know, and again, there's this elephant in the room about the Big Ten Enterprises for-profit that is going to be created in this deal. And there are people in the Big Ten that are true believers in this. Once again, part of the deal that none of these college football reporters want to talk about. They don't even mention the name Big Ten Enterprise. It's literally like gone. They don't talk about it. So for months, weeks, and the last few days, I've been kind of like, I don't know if I'm for this deal, but the reporting of it has absolutely been horrific. It's been a farce. In articles, on X, on YouTube, on every platform out there. So that is why, going into this live show, I made the announcement that college football's peek around the corner, gives his full endorsement to the deal. Because how bad can the deal be when all these gentlemen and gentle ladies who can't even report on it accurately, when all of them are against it, how bad can this deal be? Literally, I'm for the deal because who's against the deal? Now, is that outrageous on my part? Probably. But that's the point where I'm at. That is exactly where I'm at. And we have peek around the corner. I'm going to say this one more time. Behind the scenes, we have made the adjustments to this DEFCON 1 reality. I have lost trust. In some of the avenues of information that I have received. That has been accurate, by the way. But going forward, I have completely lost trust with it because there's something afoot here, and I've got to have some self-awareness to it. I want to try to be as accurate as I am. Not here to be a Big Ten cheerleader. No way. But I mean, I've rooted against the Big Ten teams in the playoffs. I haven't picked the Big Ten team to win the championship. I not even this year. I have bashed the Big Ten in major ways in the last 6 months, especially in the last couple of months. But I also am not going to be this naive moron sitting here and regurgitating these talking points by all these reporters that are just mind-numbing in lockstep with each other. All of them. And they don't even get this story right. It's ludicrous. And so we are at DEFCON 1. And Scott Doctman's comment. And he went and liked my post, by the way. He went and liked this statement that I put back to Andy Staples. Scott Doctman liked it. The real reason some schools want this deal, large and small, is because of the Big Ten enterprises for which, for whatever reason, you and others won't discuss. This is not about Minnesota holding a butter knife to Michigan. Good grief. Like Andy Staples said on his YouTube show. And that's another example. I mean, Scott Docterman is basically telling people, and again, he said this, he reported this. And again, the other reporters, they have to come on in and they have to tear this apart because they can't quite grasp the idea that Big Ten is pissed at them because they do a lousy job. Scott Docterman, Big Ten school official, on the perceived lack of transparency regarding the league's $2.4 billion financial arrangement. There is a piece of this that is just ridiculous. So whatever anybody thinks about the deal, the idea that this hasn't been transparency is laughable. The source went on and described the hundreds of hours, the meetings. Everybody's got the information. It's been transparent. Absolutely transparent. And what does Andy Staples say? Well, we're being completely transparent, an anonymous source. That's your comeback? Honestly, guys, I would not hire a lot of these guys to run a hot dog stand in Coney Island. Literally. And I'm sorry to say all this because I want to be the kind, gentle Greg Pflugar that I used to be. But we are at DEFCON 1. And the disinformation, in the disingenuous reporting on this major story, it has got Big Ten people up in arms. Scott Docterman, he knows. That's why he put that out there. And of course, Danny Staples makes a stupid comment. Scott Docterman comes back at him. There are motivations in regards to this reporting that goes well beyond the idea, is it a good deal or is it a bad deal? I don't know. Maybe that's not what this reporting is all about. It's all about, boy, do I hate the Big Ten, and I'm going to let them have it any chance I get. John Wilner, God, all of them. They got that axe to grind, and they're going to grind it every single day. Well, starting, yesterday or the day before, I'm going to be throwing it right back at them. And I'm going to continue to bash the Big Ten when I happen to think they deserve the bashing. But I'm not going to go out of their way and have character assassination on their commissioner or say stupid things or have reports that completely avoid all of the information that is going on. Like completely, and I'm not going to sit here and have this, I'm not going to avoid the discussion of a Michigan Board of Regents member that reposts Matt Hayes' article, Hatchet Job. Every other reporter has avoided it, right? Right? In fact, they're all sitting there slapping Jordan Akers on the back. If you can't see the difference, if you can't see the DEFCON 1 situation that we're in, I don't know how else to say it. There are forces that want the Big Ten to be completely destroyed. And I kind of respect that position because the Big Ten has helped destroy the Pac-12. I kind of respect that position. But the forces that want the Big Ten to be destroyed, oh, they're all covering themselves in cloak. They are. And this story is just another big example of it. But that cloak, it ain't working on me. It ain't. Because you can't possibly be that incompetent not to know the full story of this potential deal, and you're avoiding large parts of it. You can't possibly be that incompetent. I know you're not that incompetent, but you want the Big Ten to be destroyed. So you've got the cloak, and I'm going to take the cloak off, and I'm going to show the whole world what you're trying to do. Minnesota is not holding a butter knife to Michigan. One of the dumbest comments I've ever seen any national reporter say. All right. That's it for today. I do appreciate it. Tomorrow we are going to have a happy live show. We are going to make our picks against the spread. You're going to see a kinder, gentler, fat guy from Minnesota. But these shows, look, don't they have to be done? Because nobody else is going to do a show like this. If they are, where are they? Let me know. That's all I'm going to say. I want to thank, I've already thanked the people who have donated to this channel. Thank you for all checking in on us. I appreciate it. The phone calls. If you want to be a part of this truly college football rebel outpost, subscribe to our channel, open up those notifications, and smash the like button if you've liked our content. If you despise the content of today, hit that thumbs down button. I would appreciate it. Until next time, from all of us at College Football's Peek Around the Corner, to all of you, please you all take great care of each other. Even you college football reporters, please you all take great care of each other. And as always, God, family, Golden